Thank you very much. My name is Danny Bernardini, Business Manager for the Napa-Soldano Building and Construction Trade Council. We represent union construction workers in Napa and Solano County. We've been before you before, and we've heard some of those things that were just highlighted before. And instead of the hypotheticals, we have some good evidence since we've last met. I want to first just thank everyone for having us here and having this discussion. I think if you look nationally and locally, the idea of project labor agreements and unionizing is something that has become quite popular. You're seeing folks like Amazon, Starbucks, where you would have never thought they would have had unions. And so I understand that the county, a lot like those businesses, are looking at other opportunities and looking at supporting workers. And that's really what this is about. This is a philosophical choice of who you want working on your projects. If you want trained workers, if you want workers that have protection, that have representation, that have health care, and that have an avenue to go if they get any kind of wage violation, they have steps they can take to do that. That's something we offer on any project, but on a PLA, you will know that anybody working on your project at the county will have those rights as well. So really what it is, the agreement is between the Napa-Soldano Building Trades and the county, and any contractor that does sign on to the PLA will sign on to that as well. With that signing of the PLA, you get a partnership. We work with the county. We are a partner on your projects. And so if there's any discussion needed, any intervention needed, any education needed, we are there for you on all those. The pre-construction meetings is a big part of this. It helps organize, it helps make sure that those doing the jobs are trained to do those jobs. And that's something I'll get into a little bit later. And also, it's a 30-some page document, right? There's a lot of legalese in there, and a lot of that is talking about any kind of conflict resolution, and that's all laid out very clearly. We have folks named, arbitrators named, because of the process needs to take place in a timely manner. So all those things are laid out, and so everybody that signs that knows exactly the situation as they go into it. And those conflict resolutions are handled internally. They do not come to the governing body. We take care of it to make sure that you guys don't have to get in the middle of any of our discussions. So you heard a little bit about costs and on time, under budget. We pride ourselves on that. And you'll see later the list of agreements we have in this county and Solano County. You know, you all know where I'm at. I'm around, and I'm in front of those elected officials. I'm in front of those county administrators. I'm in front of those staff members. If we were going around and adding $2 million to every project, or 5 or 15 or some hypothetical number, I would get called out. They would be in the audience today saying, this costs us too much money, or you would hear them. You all sit on regional boards. You all go to conferences. You would hear from other electeds that this is not a good thing. And in fact, when we got done with American Canyon and we went to Sin City, Brett Prevula called Jason Hawley. And when we went to Benicia, Mario Giuliani called Brett Prevula. They all talk. If we had been messing up and we'd been overrunning and we had all these issues that you're going to hear about today, they would all know about it and you would know about it. And it's just not the case. We pride ourselves on the work we do. We pride ourselves on our commitment. And we pride ourselves on providing the best labor that you can find around. Local hiring halls, we have 6 training facilities, and we have numerous hiring halls around the area. So when somebody gets dispatched to the job, they're going to be coming from these areas. Some of our locals, they do cover regional areas, and they have multiple hiring halls in those areas. And so they have the opportunity to get labor from different halls. But first things first, they come out of halls. My office is in Operating Engineers Hall in Fairfield. We have IBAW out here. We have sheet metal, we have in Vallejo, we have 3 or 4 as well. They're coming from these areas, and that's how we can guarantee that the folks that are from here get to work here. And that's really important, because we don't want to send people 2 hours over 2 bridges to go to work. We want the jobs to be here, and that's what we're talking about today. I think I talked a little bit about the worker protections already. So our pre-job meetings, this is really important, and it's a lot of how we guarantee what we promise. When we have a project and the bids are awarded, we get together with those contractors and the awarding body. We set a date, and our members our representatives and the contractors, we get together. I get the paperwork. I find out what work they're performing, what equipment they're using, and what tentative assignment to the union they're giving. If that assignment is challenged, we have it laid out very clearly in our PLA how that works. And it's a conversation that staff's not going to have to get in the middle of. It's between the building trades and the contractors. And there's all kinds of language in there to help have that problem come to an end, because we can't have a dispute internally hold up a project. So we have it all laid out and we know how to fix those problems. And I can tell you, in my 9 years, we haven't had to do that. We always figure it out. We work together. We're family. And so when we have a little disagreement, we figure it out. And we know that if we hold up a project, it's going to land on us again. And then your current projects right now, you could hire a general contractor, and general being the key word. They could hire any employee they want, and they could be trained by whoever. You know that when you hire and when you have a union member, they're going to have 3 to 5 years of training. They're going to have gone through an apprenticeship, and you know that they're going to be trained to do the job that they're doing. Otherwise, you could have somebody that is a jack of all trades, they say, but a master of no trade. And so that's what we pride ourselves on, and you should feel comfortable knowing that the person working on your project has been trained to do so. How am I doing on time? All right. We talked about costs. We couldn't come up with a hard number because it's a hypothetical. It's something that's just said. As I said, we have several examples, and not just us, but throughout the Bay Area, throughout the state, throughout the country. If these were always overrunning, you'd know about it. Our friends here today would be telling you over and over of all the projects that we've messed up on, and it's not the case. The materials are the same, the wage is the same, and so it's hard to figure out how those projects would be increased in cost. As far as administration costs, I think I've explained, and I can further explain. We take care of a lot of that for you. We invite folks from the awarding body to the pre-job meetings. They usually come to 1 or 2 and say, all right, I think you guys have this handled. Let us know when the next one is, and often they'll show up, they'll listen, and they don't have a lot to say about it. We do have some examples over in Fairfield. We had an overpass in the train station. The project came in under budget. They were able to expand the parking lot. And as far as the bidding, you'll hear a little bit about how we are currently utilizing non-union contractors, but also when there is a PLA project, I send it out to all our folks and say, this is a PLA project. Tell your contractors to bid on this. Because again, I've given somebody my word that this PLA would not affect the bidding process and would not affect anything else. And so we know, I send the bat signal out, and they know to get their contractors. And a big thing is some of these cities traditionally have gone decades without one. So we need to let them know, hey, your contractors might not have bid in American Canyon before or Sassoon before, just because the smaller contractors can play games. Well, it's fair game now. There's a PLA there. So please bid that, and the cities will decide what the lowest responsible bid is, and we'll go from there. Okay, so then excluding non-union bidders, let's get this very clear, very out in the open. There is a state law that says you cannot discriminate who bids a project. Full stop. That's what it is. And so if a non-union contractor wants to bid our project, they can do so. If they're awarded, they will get folks out of the hall, just as they do on public works projects. On public works projects, you need a state-approved apprenticeship. Not all non-union apprenticeship are state approved. So some of those non-union contractors, when they're working a public works job, have to call the hall and get a apprentice sent out to them. So they're familiar with it and they understand the quality of the work that they're going to be getting. The only time a non-union contractor can be excluded is on a private project, and that's up to the developer themselves. But on a public works government project, we cannot exclude. Workforce development, we're really proud of what we've been doing in the schools, in the community, in the adult schools. We have a nonprofit, CTWI. They're helping us. They've implemented a high school course at Vallejo High School. We've worked with them on community events. They work with Alameda and Contra Costa as well, and they run pre-apprenticeship programs. Currently, our pre-apprenticeship program is run through North Bay TIP. At some point, we look to reassess how that's working and see who will be running that. But right now, CTWI is helping us as they can on on these folks. We go into the schools. We have a bus tour with 200 students that go to our training facilities. We have a hands-on career fair. 500 students come from both counties. We have classroom visits. We have an adult school class that teaches the mechanical trades test. It's drop in, drop out. It's free. So we want to use that pipeline to make sure everybody's trained up and understands the opportunities, and then they are put into the apprenticeship when they graduate that pipeline. But to train all those people, we need jobs at the end of that pipeline, and that's why we're here today, because we don't want to send people north, south, east, and west to find work. We want that work to be here, and we want our members to be able to get home in a decent hour and not drive 4 hours a day. So when we do implement that in the City of Vallejo PLA, we actually put a whole section in there saying we would utilize that. And so unfortunately in Napa, we don't have those pipelines set up. But once these jobs are established, we have a curriculum that we can give to the high schools, and we can create those courses, and we can team up with the adult schools to create those pipelines. So some of our past projects, these are not them all, but these are some of our bigger ones. Solano County Government Center, the reentry facility, the county jail. For Solano Community College, we've had 2 different PLAs on 2 different bonds with them. We had the library, the science, auto tech, biotech, performing arts center. We did a PLA with Fairfield Sassoon Unified School District. We did their public safety academy, athletic fields, and we're currently doing a $36 million performing arts center right now. Measure AA, it's a 9-county Bay Area bond that helped restore wetlands and levees. We're currently, we just finished out in the Sassoon Marsh, fixing the fish filters, so the smelt and everything else don't go in there. And then we also have private PLAs, Marine Clean Energy. We did a solar farm with them. And Genentech, at the time before they left us, we built their facility and did the maintenance over there. So since we last spoke, we've been pretty busy. We signed a PLA with the Vallejo City Unified School District after Measure S passed. We're currently working on 4 campuses now. I believe we've done a total of 12 campuses. Right now they're doing a lot of their HVAC, ADA, just getting their campuses up to current standards. And at some point we will go forward into actually cracking open some campuses and doing some vertical construction there. City of Vallejo, earlier this year, $750,000 threshold citywide PLA. Griffin Academy, a $50 million charter school in the City of Vallejo School District. We just started work on that. American Canyon earlier this year passed a citywide PLA with a threshold of $200,000. Sassoon City passed an identical PLA. We're kind of doing a small city, suits them a little bit easier with a smaller threshold because some of their smaller projects, they just passed that last month. We're currently in negotiations with Benicia, and we've been talking to the City of Napa about doing something similar there. Something we're very proud of. We spent a lot of time, and a lot of folks that came before me spent a lot of time in this county trying to educate our elected officials and our residents on on labor. And we started with Green Island Road. That was the GC on that was St. Francis Electric. They came in $75,000 under the estimate. The City Council, after that project was so successful, passed the $200,000 threshold PLA. And our latest project, the Newell Space open space improvements, we actually have 3 non-union contractors on that project right now. Globe Engineering is the GC. We had a pre-job with them 2 weeks ago, and Advanced Asphalt and DG Striping, also non-union. They will be we'll be doing a pre-job with them later this week. The way they do it is they bid the project, and they met with our locals and signed an agreement that said they would utilize labor out of that hall. And so we're doing it. And so I talked to both Advance and DG yesterday. They've spoken with the unions, they've spoken with the GC, they've spoken with the City of American Canyon. They understand what's going on. They will take our members out of the hall, and we'll get that project done. We stand by our reputation. You all know us, you know the folks behind me. We have business managers, we have compliance agents, we have reps. They're in the community, they live here, they work here. I know that many of you, if not all of you, have been before us and shown the commitment to working men and women in Napa County. And thankfully, we have a chance to make that happen. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bernardini. I did want to ask you something. So I found the Marin study really compelling, and something they talked about was sort of their equity or social justice component of a PLA. Can you comment on that?
Yeah, when I was in high school, trades were an opportunity, and it was an option for those that weren't going to go to college. I saw my wood shop, my metal shop get ripped out. It got replaced for a spot for the soccer team to practice, I believe, between two buildings behind our school. That was where our auto shop was. So you have a lot of generations of folks that if they're not getting good grades and they don't love school, why are they going? And you're looking at that in some of the cities neighboring us in Solano County. And that's really what we're trying to do, is we're trying to capture those folks that don't see an avenue to education, but need an avenue to employment. And so I talked about CTWI earlier. They have their Alameda, their pre-apprenticeship centers they have down there focused on, all the socioeconomic and women in the trades. We have women in the trades, I believe about 5,000 of them gathered in New Orleans earlier this month, their biggest gathering ever for the Women in Trades Conference. It's something we pride ourselves on. It's not obvious to some of them. I go to the high schools and I talk to the young women and they say, I think I'm too small. And I say, you need to go talk to sheet metal. You need to go talk to the insulators. They need small folks, right? And so a lot of our trades are predominantly Latino. It's just, you don't really know, but we have that opportunity for everyone. I think one of the biggest draws I get is when I go to the continuation high schools. And for whatever reason, those folks like to be told that they're being recruited, and that's who we want. And so our programs, we have many of them. Our apprenticeship programs, obviously, are open to everyone, and we offer an opportunity for those that can't go to college or just haven't really found the right path for themselves. And so we pride ourselves on that. And you'll probably hear from some of our locals later about some of those programs as well.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having us here today. The last time we were here was in discussion about a project labor agreement, possibly on your jail expansion project, a project that, as your staff indicated, is on time and under budget. That's really the theme here. You have been given to you a solution in search of a problem in the form of the most discriminatory, exclusionary, and divisive issue facing the construction industry today, which is why we'll show in just a moment why so few entities, even in a state like California, use them. I didn't include this in my PowerPoint, but I do want to remind you that I sent this to you shortly after it came off the governor's desk. His veto of AB 984, which was the first time the legislature had approved a bill that mandated project labor agreements be used on a certain number of projects. And again, this was sent to you, so you have it. But the critical line here is, as an option for public works projects, the new requirements proposed in this bill would result in additional cost pressures that were not accounted for in this year's budget. This is the rubric under which we'll be moving forward today. Project labor agreements are not only a solution in search of a problem, they add costs and they openly discriminate against the 85% of the construction workforce in this state, not in the country, in this state, that chooses to wake up on a daily basis and work in a union-free environment. Here are the numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's just what they are. This is not the 1960s, it's not the 1930s, it's 2024. And over 85% of the construction workforce in the state chooses to wake up on a daily basis and work in a union-free environment. My board is comprised of union and non-union construction companies. They don't want project labor agreements. You will not see union construction companies here telling you a project labor agreement is good. What you have are business agents who do not employ a single worker and do not run a single company pushing project labor agreements. That's who pushes PLAs, not construction company owners, because they want to be able to rely on their subcontractor base to bid their work, including non-union shops. PLAs preclude them from doing that. So the Bureau of Labor Statistics is quite clear. Most of the young men and women who wake up every day and choose to build this state and this country just happen to be union-free. I have 2 union cards in my past. My dad retired from the UAW. We have union construction firms that belong to the coalition, but we oppose PLAs because they simply interfere with the normal marketplace. So again, we were started 25 years ago. We're comprised of both union and non-union companies, and without exception, PLAs are comprised of the following provisions, which really are at the heart of PLAs. Without them, all of our contractors would sign a PLA, but these provisions are key. If you've read one, you've read them all. These are boilerplate agreements. They have to be approved by AFL-CIO National back in Washington, D.C. And you are not allowed as a contractor to use any of your workers in some PLAs that I've read over the years. Up to 6 is the most that I've ever seen. So if you are a Berg Electric and you employ 2,500 non-union electricians, one of the largest subcontractors in the country, and you need to use 100 of them on a particular project that's covered by a PLA, you can use maybe 6, and only then on an alternate basis. One of their workers one of the union workers from the hall, one of your workers, one of the union workers from the hall, up to 6, all the others have to come from the union hiring hall. These are people that Berg has no experience with. They don't know their competency. They don't know their qualifications. They don't know their skill set. And you're telling a company they have to work with complete strangers to build a project that might be something over $100 million. That's one of the key provisions in PLAs. All workers must pay union dues and fees. I remember as a union worker, first paycheck I got every year, union dues taken right off the top. And it was not an insignificant amount, and it's gotten larger over the years because obviously time has gone by. But that's a significant amount of money that goes out for those non-union workers who may work under a PLA project. All workers must pay into union health, welfare, and pension plans despite already having their own plans on a prevailing wage project. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing the work they're doing for the company they're working for. They'd simply go to work for the unions if they weren't getting these benefits. But they are, and under a PLA, they have to pay into a pension plan they'll never vest in. And therefore that money is lost to them. That's wage theft. All PLAs exclude union-free state-approved apprenticeship programs in the state. The unions do a terrific job training. They've done it for a long time. When the non-union side realizes they needed to do the same, the unions fought them in court for 10 years. 10 years during the 1990s to keep them from having the ability to train their workers in their own apprenticeship programs. The unions lost that court case. Since the late 1990s, the non-union side has been able to train young men and women to be future tradesmen, journeymen, and they are just explicitly forbidden from working on PLA projects. I'm going to go through this relatively quick today. You have this, you have time to dig down, do it, ask questions, send me emails or ask questions today. So I'm not going to read every single line here of what I've given you, but I wanted to show you how important it is to understand you're not negotiating anything. You're handed a boilerplate agreement. The language is almost identical from every PLA you've ever read to every other PLA. And the first provision that I talked about in the previous slide, the core workforce provision. I give you 3 examples because there are so few PLA examples in this region. I gave you 3 of them in each case. Here in the core workforce provision case, I give you examples from Marin County, Santa Rosa Junior College, and Sonoma County. These non-union contractors are only allowed to use, as you can see, 4, 5, or 6 of their own workers. All the rest have to come from the union hiring hall. Again, why would you put that in any agreement where you're asking a non-union company to bid your project, and then you're telling them they can only use a few of your workers? What does that have to do with anything? They are workers that work for this company that clearly have the qualifications to do the job. Otherwise, they wouldn't be pre-qualified to work on your projects. You probably have a long relationship with many of them, and yet they're not allowed to use their workers. In each of these instances, the language is almost identical, including their number in the PLA, what provision they are in the PLA. And again, you have all this, so please take time to look through it and go to the PLAs themselves and read them, and you'll see I'm taking these from the actual PLAs. Again, the workers must pay into union health, welfare, and pension plans they'll never vest in. Vesting requirements are at least 5 years. If you're a non-union contractor that employs their workers on the PLA project because you did want to bid it, that worker has to work on that project for 5 years, which is not going to happen, or they're not going to be vested and that money is lost to them. That's a significant amount of money that's lost to that worker. That's in every single project labor agreement you see negotiated, quote unquote. These are the examples that I give you. Again, apprentices, explicitly forbidden from working under a PLA. Why would you explicitly forbid any non-union apprentice that's in a state-approved program from being able to work on your project? Why would you do that? Why would that even be in a PLA? If it's a state-approved program that a young man and woman are trying to go through in order to get future employment in the trades, why would you keep them from being able to bid your project unless they are in a union joint labor management program? That's just discrimination, and it has no place in the state in 2024. PLAs are common and popular, but they're really not. We give you all the examples. They're so rare, and the macro level from the state level is one thing, but just looking locally, there are 5 counties that border Napa. 2 have ever deemed to use a project labor agreement. There are 78 school districts in these 5 counties that surround Napa. 3 have used PLAs. There are 127 cities in these 3 counties, and 4 have used PLAs. These are not popular. They are not used by the vast majority of public entities in the state or in this region, and there's a good reason for that. They do not guarantee on time or on budget. I have sent you over the last few weeks and months an incredible amount of data that explicitly shows that the project labor agreement was in fact the reason that the price changed when a project was put out to bid with one and without one. These are apples to apples comparisons. I've sent these emails to you, and I'll be sending them again if you'd like me to. An example here was a $2 billion transit center in San Francisco that shut down months after it was opened because of quality defects. The Millennium Tower that was built right next to it was complaining that the transit center being built was impacting the fact that it was falling over. I mean, these are just disastrous projects built completely with union labor, completely union-only labor under PLAs, and yet they have massive problems. This isn't to say union labor is any worse or better than non-union labor, but to say that you're going to be guaranteed under a PLA that the quality of workmanship will be better. There are hundreds of examples of PLA projects where that's not the case. County of Sonoma, where you have projects that they put under their project labor agreement, but for 10 years they didn't actually have a PLA go out to bid because staff was purposely trying to keep the county protected by not putting the PLA into effect. They finally lowered the threshold to $1 million, so they'll have their first project that's going under bid with a PLA. But they did their own study that showed that if they'd had a PLA on a project that they were doing, that it would be 10 to 14% more had their PLA been in effect on that project. That's Sonoma County. Santa Rosa City Schools, they've recently adopted a PLA, and they've already taken out certain items from falling under that PLA because they were finding they just weren't getting any bidders. The city of Santa Rosa, in March of this year, city staff sent out an email begging contractors to bid their Laguna Treatment Plant Basins Improvement Project. They got 0 bidders. The contractor said it was all because of the project labor agreement. This is what happens with PLAs. You decrease your bidders and increase your costs. Santa Rosa Junior College, the 2 projects they've had under their PLA, both came in massively over budget and over time. They did not open on time at Santa Rosa Junior College. And that's the reality of PLAs. Marin College, their first project was $23 million plus when it went out to bid. It came in at $35 million plus when it was through. It was over a year behind schedule. Marin College is one of the few public entities in the region that has used a PLA in the past. So these are the questions and this is my last slide, questions that require an answer. And I appreciate your time, and sorry if I'm going a few seconds over. I hope you ask these questions to us that are assembled today because they're very, very important. Why is now a project labor agreement that's something that's needed? How much would it cost just to administer the project labor agreement? Have you done a survey of the people who do work for you and asked these contractors, would they bid a project with a PLA? And if not, why not? That's very important to do. Do that because these are people you have relationships with that are already pre-qualified, that are competent contractors, union and non-union alike, and find out what their opinion is. Don't just take, Danny's or my opinion, but go out and ask their opinion. So I hope you get a chance to ask. I'll be glad to answer any of these if you'd like today, but they're very important that you ask these questions, engage in the Socratic method, get out here and make sure you're bouncing ideas and thoughts and questions off us while we're here because we're the people that deal with this daily. And I just appreciate your time and giving us a chance once again to come and give our opposition position on this. And I'll end with this. Everything that Danny said and the workers that he represents who build great products, all of them will have a chance to bid your work without a project labor agreement in place. The union contractors that employ the union workers and the non-union contractors that employ the non-union workers will all get to bid under the current way of doing things. With the PLA, those same union contractors can still bid the work, but our non-union contractors cannot. And that's the big difference. You, in this day and age, need all of these people bidding your work because the inflation is so bad that you need everybody at the table. So thank you for your time, and I'll be glad to answer any questions you may have.